Holling and Me by Blair Bryant. Chapter 1. The first month of school had passed, and I hadn't made a single friend at Baton Elementary. I was the new kid, the outsider, and there I was again, stuck right in the middle of another miserable day. The teacher, Miss Baird, dismissed the class for recess, and all the happy children rushed outside to the playground except for me. I went behind the schoolhouse to hide so the other kids couldn't see me cry. I just stood there with my head down and wept for the longest time. That was the first time I cried at school, but I couldn't help it. I just had enough. Miss Bear rang her bell to signal that it was time to come inside, but I ran towards home. I ran hard and fast until I was out of sight from the school. Then I walked slowly to catch my breath and dry my tears. I was almost home when I passed the old man's house. It was a small wooden and rectangular home that was nicely built. The house was painted white and had a covered front porch, and I really liked the little place. The old man who lived there was always outside, and I passed him twice a day as I went to and from school. I didn't know much about the old man, except he stayed outside. Sometimes he worked, and sometimes he just sat in his yard in an old wooden bench that looked crude and homemade. And the old man didn't have a right hand. There was just a stump where his right hand should have been. He occasionally carried a bucket on his right arm just above the stump, and he used his left hand to reach into the bucket for a handful of scratch feed that he threw down to his chickens. I liked to watch him feed his chickens in that way, but the old man wasn't outside on that day. That was the first time that I didn't see him. I stood on the edge of his yard and looked all around, but he wasn't there. The property seemed odd without the human figure standing there in his blue overalls and straw hat. The place looked lonely. My attention quickly turned to the old man's barn. It was an ancient, dark gray structure that looked like it had seen better days, and that old barn gave me an itch. I just had to find out what was in that old barn. I had a natural instinct to explore and find things, so there was no way I could resist. There was no sign of the old man, so I figured he had left the property. I made a hard sprint through the yard, and before I knew it, I was standing inside the barn. The sunlight shone through the open door and made it possible to see. It was so quiet, and I tried to silence my heavy breathing. I snooped around the place and peeped into the stalls. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to be found. An old saddle and a cast iron stove were the best treasures, but I wasn't satisfied with that. I found the ladder that went straight up to the loft, and that ladder gave me hope for some real treasures. I slowly climbed the ladder until my head was above floor level. Then I turned my head and scanned around the place. Nothing good was in plain sight, so I climbed on up to get a better look. I walked slowly in the loft, and the wooden floor squeaked and creaked with every step. The loft was mostly empty except for a little hay that was scattered around, and the hay still gave off a sweet smell. I gave up and decided to make my way back to the ladder. Unfortunately, my feet stepped in the wrong place. In an instant, I went crashing through the loft floor as the old boards gave way. My eyes caught a last glimpse of the loft just before my head went below floor level. It all happened so fast, and the fall knocked me senseless. When I regained my senses, I was being carried over someone's shoulder. My eyes were looking straight down at North Carolina red clay, but I didn't know where I was. The sight of the ground quickly changed to wooden steps, followed by wooden boards, and finally interior hardwood floor. Plop! I was stretched out on a sofa and staring up at the ceiling. "Hello, young man," a voice rang in my ears. I rolled my eyes over and saw the old man looking down at me. He had tan, leathery skin that showed a life of hard work. His skin was really wrinkled around his steel blue eyes. The old man became more than just a shape in the yard. I was scared and ashamed for trespassing on the old man's property. The old man looked into my eyes and checked me over. I think you'll be all right. I think you landed on that old stove and bounced off onto the ground. You're going to have a few bruises and you're a bit shaken up. Can you talk? Do you have a name? I shyly looked at the old man and said, Yes, I'm Ebenezer Green, but I like to be called Eb. The old man stuck out his left hand and said, I'm Holling Peck. Just call me Holling. I shook Holling's hand and forced a smile. Holling continued, I've seen you walking to and from school lately, but I've never seen you before this school year. Are you new around here? Yeah, I replied. My mother and me just moved here to live with my grandma. I call her Nana Murdy. Her real name is Myrtle McCall. Holling nodded. I know Myrtle. She's a fine woman. She'll take good care of you. Yes, she will, I returned. Mama got a job at the hosiery mill. I think she folds and packs or something like that. And my father is over somewhere in Europe. He's fighting in the big war, fighting Germans, I guess. I haven't seen him in a long time. We just plan on staying with Nana Murdy until Papa gets back, but I think Mama really likes it here better. This is where she grew up. Holling lowered his eyebrows and nodded. Your dad is a brave man. Yeah, he's probably fighting Germans. Holling paused and continued. How's things going over there at Baton School? I shook my head. Not so good. I haven't made a single friend. I feel out of place. I miss my old school and Papa. Holling replied, I understand. Where did you come from? We came here from Madison County. I miss Madison, but I'm trying to get used to Caldwell County. Holling smiled. Yeah, I like it here. I've lived here in Caldwell my whole life. In fact, I've spent my whole life here in Baton. And Eb, I wouldn't say that you haven't made any friends. You've made a friend today, if you'll have me as a friend. I smiled and returned. Yeah, I'll be a friend. Holling continued. It's been a long time since I've made a friend, and I've always lived all alone in this old house. It's nice to have a new friend. I'll get you some water. Holling went outside to the pump and returned with a tin cup full of water. The water sure tasted nice in my dry mouth. Holling pulled up a chair beside me and spoke. Eb, I'm sure you're wondering about my right hand. Well, I was born this way. I don't know why. I just was. But I don't miss a right hand because I've never had one. A man just don't miss what he's never had. That makes sense, I said. Holling nodded and said, Eb, I sure could use your help in the morning. Can you be here early, around 5 o'clock? Yeah, I guess so, I replied. Holling smiled. Good. I'll see you then. I guess you'd better run on home now, Eb. Okay, thanks for helping me, Holling. I'll see you in the morning. Nana Murdy met me with her big green eyes as I returned home. Why are you home so early? She asked. Sorry, Nana, but I just left school early. I don't have a good reason, except feeling so unhappy. Nana Murdy shook her head and said, Well, don't let it happen again. Okay, it won't happen again, Nana. Mama came home soon after, and she gave me a kiss on my cheek like always. I worried that Nana Murdy would tell on me for cutting school. Mama asked, How was school today, Ebenezer? I cut my eyes to Nana Murdy. She smiled and gave me a wink, so I knew that I was safe. It was okay. I learned some stuff, and I made a friend after school. Mama smiled. That's great. Is this new friend in your grade? Well, no, Mama continued. Is it a boy or a girl? I replied, a boy. Well, actually, a man, Holling Peck. He's real nice. I passed by his house going to and from school, and today we became friends. Mama turned to Nana Murdy. That name sounds familiar. What kind of man is this Holling Peck?" Nana Murdy laughed. "Oh, he's harmless. Old Mr. Peck is a lonely old man. I'm sure he needs a friend, and Eb does too." "Mama," I said, "Holling wants me to help him in the morning. He needs me at his house around 5 o'clock. Is it okay?" "I guess so, Eb. And what kind of help does he need?" I answered, "I don't know, but it don't matter. If he needs my help, then I'll do it." Mama smiled and nodded. Then she put on her apron and went to the kitchen. Mama pulled her black hair back into a ponytail, as she always did when she cooked. I watched as she stood and peeled potatoes at the counter. Mama was a great cook. She fed me well every evening. Her and Nana Murdy, they were the best. The cold evening chill came soon after the sun fell, so I decided to take my bruised body to bed. Snuggled under the covers, I could hear Mama throw more wood into the cast iron stove. It was a nice sound. It made me feel secure and cared for. I hoped mightily that I would fall asleep quickly before the bad sound came. It was the sound of Mama sniffling and weeping. It often came at night after everyone was in bed and the house was quiet. Mama cried over Papa. Sometimes I cried too.